Welcome to Grown and Social. It's your man Beatbox, along with my co-host Jenny J,
Hey everyone.
along with Clint,
What's up, people?
and along back in the flesh with Lynnette. How you
Hey,
doing today?
I'm doing good.
All right. Yeah.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to have some fun today. I wanted to start off here just looking at what was going on in the crypto space. I've been trying to focus more on crypto, um, you know, just to see what's going on in the market, talk about some top news of the week before we dive into our topic of the night. So, looking at the crypto bubbles here, we can see that it's half and half. You know what I'm saying? So, but if I scroll down here, Bitcoin down 1.1% for the week, Ethereum down 2.1%. It's up 30% for the year. Ethereum's up 22% for the year. So, the closer as we get to Bitcoin halving, which is in April of 2024, I expect these numbers are going to start going astronomical. I'm not a financial advisor, but I may even start trying to let people know the different plays that I'm in, and try to see if whoever's in this space, wants to see some plays, and we can have some fun time seeing if some of our picks actually turn out to be 10x and 100x winners. So I plan on doing that. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling people what I'm doing out there. Be careful. Go at your own risk. Other news that we got is Fed now. Since we're talking about crypto, I kind of find it funny that the Federal Reserve, that for so long was trying to blackball Bitcoin. Now they've got what's called Fed Now service, and this is it's kind of like an instant payment service that the Federal Reserve is doing. And what that means for the consumer is ultimately, whereas like you work at your job, you work your hours, and then they go to ADP or some type of payroll payment processor, and then they would submit that to the bank, and there's a 2 to 3 day clearing time before you can actually get paid. With this, with the Fed now, it's going to be instant payments. So it's going to be kind of like Cash App or Zelle or any of these payment services that we use to send money individually between us and another person. Now it's going to be brought out to financial institutions, and up on the screen here is just a list of a lot of the institutions, BNY out in New York, but Wells Fargo, they're out of California, but they're down here in Georgia, one of the largest banks. U.S. Bank out of Ohio, they're all across the nation as well. So you got J.P. Morgan Chase. I mean, you got some really big banks that are now going to be using this Fed Now service, and a lot of people think that this is kind of like the Fed's way of getting into the digital dollar. So I don't want to bring conspiracy theories in here, but it just seems to me like this is kind of like the introduction to to get all the banks using it. They charge fees for making these transfers, which is almost kind of like what a stable coin does in cryptocurrency. So it's a good way for money to make money just by transacting in and of itself. And the Federal Reserve is now they're looking at that and they're doing that. So again, I think it's definitely the Fed's way of getting their foot in the door into the digital currency space. So, when you think about Bitcoin, whether or not it's going up or down, it's going to go up because major players are getting in. The Federal Reserve is now officially a part of this. So this is live. Fed service now. You can Google it, TikTok it, wherever you get your social media, check it out. Something else that's new, my murderers. I'm interested in murderers for whatever reason. It's like, it's just, I don't understand how this guy, if you've seen some of the earlier shows, it's fascinating how some of these people can just like become successful and then just ruin their life. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this guy here, Bozo number one, he had an architecture firm, and he's suspected of killing like 4 different women, and these are all like escorts. And he did it back in 2010, and they're like buried. You know, the Gligo Beach is like, you know, less than 5 miles away from this man's house. So it's like a stretch of, you know, beach, and then, you know, there's like a little break, but there's sand, and a lot of people thought this was like a place where the mafia was like dumping bodies, because there's so many bodies over there. They tied him to like 4 of them, 4, you know, call girls or what have you. But you know, this dude right here was next level, and he has a family. So he's got a wife, he's got a daughter, and he's got a stepson, which makes this, you know, even worse. But the thing is he was, you know, they think one of the murders happened in his house while he was, you know, while his family was away.
Wow.
And, yeah, how they, and you know, the sad part is, not only did he kill these women, but 2 of them, he had these burner phones, I guess that he was using to call the women, but he took 2 of the phones from the call girls and called their family and was taunting them, talking about how, you know, he killed her. He actually told one of the, at the time she was 15 years old, and told her what he did to her, and then also, you know, how he killed her. You know what I mean? Like with her phone. You know what I mean? So imagine your people missing, and then you get a caller ID call from them, and there's some dude saying, I killed you. You know what I mean? So, and then, you know, it's even worse, though, when they caught this dude, he was literally, because he works in New York, he's got an architecture firm. I mean, with like Nike, some, you know, he does like some, you know, some redesigning buildings in the New York area for some major companies. And they caught this dude, they showed video of him, he was just walking down the street, hand in his pocket, you know, coat thrown over his shoulder, just walking like, you know, like it was just a regular day in the wind, you know what I mean? And 4 bodies that, you know, they can pin them to because of DNA. So they had the evidence from a long time ago. They got a new type of DNA, you know, process that they say one single strain, now they can tie it to your DNA. So he had some pizza. It's a big dude here. He was out there eating pizza, tossed it. They got his DNA off the pizza crust, matched it up with one of the hairs on the victims. They actually even had it. His wife's hair was also there. But they say she's not a suspect. And as you can see here, she actually filed for divorce apparently on Wednesday. So good for her. Because, you know, some of these women, they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna stand by my man, this, that, and the other, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, yo, bro, this guy's been like calling call girls for, you know, at least for 10 years, 15 years going on, you know, and saying you got a daughter, he killing people supposedly in your house. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that crazy? You know, but one of the reasons why I mention it too, though, is, you know, it's a doggy dog world we live out here. If, you know, ladies, if you're out there and you're doing your call girl thing, just make sure people know where you're going when you go. And hopefully that's the reason why we haven't heard of any more murders, because people are a little more protected when they're out there in the streets. I mean, because it's real. People are doing it. You might not like it, you know, but, you know, if that's you, just make sure you stay protected and you got some backup. Because this guy right here, he was nutso. Clint, I know you said you had your friend nutso imaginary, but this guy straight up, he's nutso.
Yeah,
he's real.
He's straight nutso.
Yeah, he's real. He's real.
Yeah, he's
all
real.
Right? So what else happened in the news today? I can't let this slide. Your girl, you know, Carly Russell. Everyone knows she's the one from Alabama. 25-year-old nursing student. She said she was kidnapped. Turned to find out this whole thing might have been a big giant hoax. You know, she got the movie Taken and all kind of stuff in her search history. I mean, it's like. Yo, I don't understand, like, and she's 25, right? She should know that they can get in her business and know what she's looking at. I don't understand why she thought this was going to be a doable thing.
But from what I understand, she did all this to see if her boyfriend was going to look for her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just to see if her boyfriend was going to look for her or not.
Do you love me? Come look for me.
And here's the thing, but that kind of leads to the talk that we were talking about, like, you know, mental health, like, because regardless to like why she did it, what mental health deficiency do you have to even calculate if that's a good idea? And this is not an insult. This is a real question of like, what gaps do we have? Y'all know mental health is my baby, my special place. Of what mental health gaps do we have that prevent people from getting the help that they need, or even recognizing that the feelings that they are feeling are not love. They're attachments, their anxiety, their codependence. It's
Right.
like things that they could actually get help for to be able to process decisions like this better. So my heart cries out for her because I know that there's something else going on there that even took her down that path.
So how do you know? How do you know you're seeking? Because to me, she's seeking attention to confirm that he is still attached to her, or like she has some kind of
Because if you're seeking attention like that and there's a
right.
need like that, there's an attachment there. When your
Okay.
feelings are extraordinarily intense, it usually isn't even love, it's an attachment. And it's an attachment because something is missing. It could be an abandonment issue, it could be anxiety, it could be bipolar, it could be anything. Like, I'm not going to diagnose her on a show. I haven't talked to her. I feel that's
Right.
unfair. But, it could be a multitude of things that would create the urgency to figure that out. When we are in urgent need for somebody to validate us, that's something going on inside. Even if they're doing something to us, cheating, whatever, there's something going on inside that makes us feel that we can't work without that validation. Because I done got a lot of broken hearts. I just go throw up and cry and call my girls like, just
Right.
like,
But you don't fake your death in order
I'm
for
not
one of
gonna
them to
take my
call you.
death.
I,
I'm not gonna, I knew a person once, like, this is not all that unusual. I knew a person once that faked for a whole 2 years that they had cancer
Oh my gosh.
and like shaved their head and everything so that this person could support them. That is a mental health issue. And
Right.
so,
Wow.
you
that girl
know,
ain't got no mental health issues. She just got, excuse me, America, dick issues.
no, it's not even that. Because I done had some
She
good
don't
stuff
want
before.
nobody to have what she's getting.
No, it
And she
wasn't. She
want to make
really,
sure she got it on lock.
but the thing
That's
is,
all.
it wasn't even about sex. She really had some deep abandonment issues that she was tired of getting dumped. And she
So
didn't want to start over again. So she was like, I can't get broken up with again. She got so obsessed with the ideal of a relationship ended that she created an entire illness. And they weren't even in danger of breaking
so
up.
so I think a lot
Oh
of
no,
people.
no. I'm talking about old girl here, not your home girl, but
Oh,
this girl.
Okay, I think people manipulate relationships quite often.
yeah.
Like they manipulate people to do whatever they're thinking they want to do. And I think this is where she's doing it on a higher level, but it does happen where, the girl might threaten to leave the
Or
guy if
kids
he
go.
right. Yeah, so I mean, it does happen. I think hers is crazy because she had the whole police force looking
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
So that's
Yep.
resources, that's money.
That's a lot
Yeah.
of money.
You got to pay that. You got to pay that back.
Yeah.
And here's the
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
I don't think she expected all of that to happen. I think she expected her family to kind of keep it in house. I don't think she thought this through, like, oh, it's gonna be a national search. I
Right.
don't think she thought
Obviously,
that
didn't think.
far.
She obviously didn't
Well,
think that through.
if she got on the phone talking about she sees this little baby and then she goes and supposedly is following the baby and then you disappear, but everything that you own is in the car. Your
Mm-hmm.
phone is in the car, but you were on your phone following the kid. How your phone
Right.
get back to the car?
Right.
How you wander back into your parents' house? How do you wander back to your parents' house?
Yeah, and then she said that it was a guy and a girl. They took her somewhere, was taking pictures of her body. So
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense about her man or whatever. Her trying to make her man jealous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but do you think we have like a social need for social media has created like a narcissistic personality in wanting to think we're so important that we.
I think narcissism has always existed.
Right.
And
It's
here's
real.
what I think is important that I think a lot of us miss.
Right.
Mental health wasn't able to be a discussion even 10, 15 years ago.
Right. Mhm.
And so because mental health wasn't a discussion, we just called people mean or
Right.
crazy
Mhm.
or oh, that man was crazy. Or, or we didn't know what narcissistic personality disorder was. Not
Right.
everybody. It wasn't a common thing. Like, so
Right.
unless you really experience a narcissistic person
Mhm.
and a doctor told you that's what it was, even it's hard to diagnose. And so people
Right.
didn't have that. And I think now with the internet, knowledge is at our fingertips and people are trying to figure out what's going on with themselves or what kind of situations they're going in. I remember, when I was in an abusive relationship a while back, years back, I ended up going to a narcissistic support group, and like I didn't know what narcissism was, and I'm like, this is what's happening to me. And they gave me all of these articles to read, and I became like immersed in learning how to manage this stuff. And so, I think part of it is we're scared to go get the help, but the information is at our fingertips, so we're trying to figure it out ourselves. And then two, people are getting more comfortable with going to seek mental health help. So saying, hey, I tell people in a minute, oh, my therapist said this. That when we were younger, we would have never
No.
go into a therapist. Like that would have been taboo. Matter of fact, I remember asking to go to a therapist when I was maybe 16 years old after my brother committed suicide or died by suicide. I like to be politically correct. And I needed help. And my mother was like, you're just being dramatic.
Yeah.
And this is not a shot at her at all. Like that's what she was given, right?
I think we were all told. We were all told to tough it out, and
tough it out.
Her generation was told to just ignore,
just figure it out.
Right.
If I had got therapy at 16, I could have saved myself about 2 decades worth of craziness before I realized that at 30 something that a therapist might be a good idea. Like just imagine had I gotten help that I needed when I asked for it at like 17. But my mother was so afraid to have me labeled that, I was getting called crazy and emotional because I was so reactive. I did not know how to regulate my emotions. And so because I didn't know how to regulate those emotions, then it was a great source of shame because I knew something was wrong. I had a tricky brain, right? My brain was telling me things that weren't logical. And I couldn't process them and respond in a healthy way. So I just ended up being the crazy girl, So I think it's so important to have those kind of conversations about mental health, especially now since it's Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And, just this ideal of like how Black people show up for that, or even now where we're like, yeah, people need to go get mental health help. And the minute they admit to getting it, we label them or we make jokes about them like, oh, this person's just crazy. This person is just that. And it's in candor, right? We don't mean anything by it. But just imagine the shame of a person dealing with crippling anxiety and 4 people in the room are making joke about crazy people.
Right.
If they're going to reach out for any help? No, because they already know no matter what we say, we are looking at them different when they say, my mind is telling me that I need you to validate me every second of the day. And I don't know why my mind is telling me that.
Right.
So now I just got to do something to gain or garner sympathy or attention. And I don't know how to do that. And now I'm doing stuff like kidnapping myself,
Kidnapping myself. I like that. So, when we talk about generational issues, I remember Charlemagne the God was talking about his mental health, and he said a story. He told a story. It was very strange. His father was going to a psychiatrist, and he was taking medicine. And he did not know that until he started going and told his father. And his father said, yeah, I've been doing this for the last 20 years. The same thing. And he's saying that his father did not share that with him. And I think mental awareness for minorities is a huge thing. And we need to really, focus on it more. Because we have a cultural stigma and a stigma all our own. Stigma for men, stigma for Black people or people of color on a whole.
Yeah, so speaking of that, that's the topic of the show is masculinity and mental health and breaking down that stigma. So Jenny, I just wonder from a woman's perspective, what do you see as masculinity?
Okay, so I think masculinity in its toxic form is different from what masculinity is. Okay, so my dad was a big man, very firm, but I can't remember seeing him cry once.
Okay.
Okay, never saw him cry. He was the type of guy that was rough and tumble. He built houses, but he never. I can't remember us having an emotional conversation, like a deep heart to heart conversation. He just had to be the man, right? He had to. He had.
Now, could that be because it was, a father talking to his daughter versus talking to his son?
I don't know. I don't know because I cannot. Well, I can't tell you what my brother and he talked about, but I can't ever remember him having like a breakdown or crying. I do remember like some guys did some work and whatever, and he was trying to get them to do it again. And I remember him being angry, throwing a couple punches, stuff like that. That's the only memory I have of him being even emotional, and the only emotion he showed was anger. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is my concern is that there's a lot of emotions that are there's anger, there's sadness, there's happiness. So I feel like a masculine man demonstrates every emotion. He just doesn't stick to one.
Well, yeah, that's a spectrum.
Right.
Yeah, some people have the dynamic ability to see masculinity as a spectrum versus how society normally classifies masculinity. So,
Right.
Lynette, I'm gonna ask you the same thing. Like, what is your, from a female's perspective, like what do you perceive to be masculinity? Because what I get from Jenny V is it seems like she's saying that she only got her dad being strong. Like he didn't have conversations with her. He would be angry. That was the only emotion that she can't remember. From your perspective, like what
I
have you seen, and what do you think masculinity is?
Well, I think again, I have to 100% agree with her. There is healthy masculinity and there's toxic masculinity. And I think healthy masculinity is the ability to be emotionally intelligent and in touch with your emotions, but lead yourself as well as lead a partner and a family if you have one, because we're every man does not have a family. So just that ability to lead yourself and be in touch. But toxic masculinity is this idea of being strong all the time. And when I look at Black communities, even now, when I look at really good, what I would consider good men raise their sons, they teach them things like, oh, don't cry like a girl, or oh, stop hugging him and babying him. Showing emotion to a young child is not babying them. Give them hugs. The world is hard enough, But I also agree,
But
like with her, that I've only the men in my space. I can only speak to my space. Are
Mm-hmm.
allowed two emotions: happiness or anger.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
sadness. Not
Mm-hmm.
sadness. Not vulnerability. None of that. I've only seen them like I can be the extremely angry and reactive
Yes.
and be
Mm-hmm.
a manly man and show you that I ain't to be played with, or I can be happy and it's all good, long as you don't test my masculinity. So I've not had the fortunate opportunity to really see any healthy masculinity that feels it's okay to cry, that feels it's okay to have physical intimacy. I'm not talking sexual. I'm saying like to give kids hugs and reassurance, or let them be in touch with their emotions and process them in a healthy way. I haven't witnessed that. I'm not saying that it's not out here. I know there are many men that say they do that. I believe they do exist. I'm just saying overall in my 45, almost 46 years coming up, I have not witnessed it. And no, let me take it back. Other than one time, one person. So other than that, it's always like either very toxic or just very, and toxic meaning like they don't allow themselves to feel at all,
Mm-hmm.
or unhealthy.
So, so as men, what I would say is, and Jenny, we had this conversation about something completely different, but society doesn't give the same type of leeway to females as they do. Yeah, they don't give the same type of weird to men as they do to women. And men, we have to go out there and either earn a dollar, or by any means necessary. I mean, we have to provide. So it's like it's a tough world for us to go out here. So we can't. And some, there was a TikTok that I had up before my whole power shut down, and I was going to show it to everyone. But there was a guy that said, my dad walked to work. My grandfather walked to work, 10 miles. My dad walked to work 5 miles. I drive a Cadillac. My son drives a Mercedes Benz, and his son will drive a Ferrari. And then he said something to the extent of, strong men are created by
hard times.
Hard times, and easy times create
weak
soft men, weak men. And then he was like, eventually my great grandkids will be walking again. And he was like, that's the reason why we need to teach our kids to be warriors. Because but the whole point, and I completely butchered that. I was gonna play it because he said it really nice. But the whole point of that story is that when you got that fire in your belly, you're more likely to go out there and get it. But what comes with that is then you want to do everything for your kids. So your kids grew up comfortable, and I've witnessed this. I've got a lot of people that I know, friends and family, to where when I was growing up rough, and I grew up rough and from humble beginnings, and I had a lot of people that had it way better than I had it, 10, 20 times better, for full family structure in place. And some of these people are like at home right now, and they hadn't done what I would expected they would have done with all the opportunity that they had. But and my thing is I don't think that they had that fire in their belly. Like, they don't have that drive. You know what I mean? So I guess I say all that just to say is it possible that when you say toxic masculinity, I agree with the toxic masculinity, but I do think that we need to teach masculinity in the sense that you need to be able to be resilient.
But you need to be able to fight. Being resilient is recognizing when you're having a weak moment. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that that's what we're missing. You're 100% right. Men do need to be resilient. They are leaders. But my whole dissertation right now discusses this ideal of dark leadership, right? I'm talking about in organizations, but men can be dark leaders too. How do you support your home and nurture your home if you can't even manage your own emotions? So if you are upset, or if you are sad, or if you are frustrated, and you can't look at your wife and say, I'm sad today, not angry, I am sad today. I'm sad because my mother's passing away. I'm sad because I'm unhappy at my job. I'm sad because you and I feel disconnected. Whatever the reason for your sadness is, if you cannot communicate that with your partner, but the only option you have left is to project. And it usually isn't going to project in a positive way. It's going to project in aggression, because you're like, I'm supporting the family, I'm doing everything, and you don't know all the things I have on my back. You're right, I don't. You didn't tell me. So
no kid is brought up like that.
Right, but we should. We need to break that narrative. I allow, one of the things I do as resident auntie, and I'll tell you something that happened. It's a young child. He's 7. That's my baby, my whole world. I love him to death. His grandma might be watching the show tonight. She be supporting me, but he's 7. I remember this time. Now, his grandfather is rough on him, right? But he's a good granddad. This is not taking any way from like, I'm better, he's worse. Let's be clear on that. But I'm just going to show you the differences. So I believe in letting children have a voice. So he wanted to get in the front seat. And you're 7. So I was like, no, you're not going to get in the front seat. I want you to get in the back seat. But you promised me I could sit in the front seat. But we were driving a further distance, and I didn't want him to sit in. Like, sometimes if we're going a short distance, I'll let him hop in the front seat. Well, anyway, point of the story, the answer was no. And he looks at me, and tears, and you could tell he's holding these tears back in his eyes. He's so upset. And he's like, I'm mad at you.
Good. He said what he
He
said.
said what he felt in that moment. Now,
Mm-hmm.
most parents, get your ass in the back seat and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
You saying, and I just looked at him and I said, that's okay. That's okay. He was like, well, I'm mad at you. And I was like, okay, but you still have to get in the back seat. So he's trying to hold back his tears because somebody has told him he can't cry.
Mm-hmm.
Stop all that crying. So he's managing his emotions, and you can kind of see him working through his head. And then he's in the back seat, and he was like, you still love me?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, absolutely. You get to have feelings. You get to be upset with me today. We'll work it out. And we got to where we needed to go, and he comes and hugs me, and he says, you still love me? And I said, yep. He said, I love you too. What would have happened if I shut down his emotions in that moment? He's a human being. He was naturally upset. He wanted something I couldn't give him. His immediate emotion was to be frustrated with me. And as an adult, it is my responsibility to manage his well-being.
To help him regulate his own emotion.
And let him know that he can have an emotion without being punished.
Mm-hmm.
So we teach our kids that they're not even human beings. And this is what happens. I'm going to tell y'all what we get with these kids that they don't have emotions. I get them in my classroom as adults in college who do not know how to negotiate salaries. They don't know how to negotiate their emotions when they get a bad grade. They don't know how to negotiate with their classmates and team assignments because they have always been told to either shut up and deal with it or to prove or establish dominance as a man when they're upset. Men are taught to establish dominance, not communicate.
I'm in charge.
I'm in charge.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if you thought that you're in charge without having tools, like this is like what I'm doing my dissertation on, right? Relational intelligence and this ideal of leadership and how we work with people and regulate our emotions. How do they do that if they're never taught? So now you have people in the workplace that are incorrigible. You can't work with them, frustrated with them. You have men that don't know how to be in relationships with people they do genuinely love because they don't know how to communicate. And then they have emotions that they don't even know how to work out because they were taught they couldn't even have those emotions. So again, it comes out as aggression. And that in a toxic place.
So here's what I'm saying. So I'm gonna let's think about the generation because we're all in similar generations, and we know that growing up as males, you guys were expected not to be snotty-nosed, crying. You were told to shake it off and man up, right?
Man up. Yeah.
Right. And so I think you're thinking that if you raise a man to be a crybaby the whole time, he's gonna be that crybaby and not be the man for his family. Am I correct?
That's part of it. That's a big part of it, right? Because my job as a father is to raise you to be a man in this world, and to be able to overcome adversity.
So I'm gonna
all different forms.
So I'm gonna
go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna let's look at it from a different perspective. So a male, we all like you go to work and your boss says all kind of things, right? You come home and your wife is like really upset that things are not done. Your children are, there's stuff happening at school and a lot of things are happening in your life. Right? So at some point, you're going to get to a point where you have to deal with those emotions. And I think what Lynnette is saying is the more you don't self-regulate, like say, hey, this is happening. I feel this way. I'm going to take this time to do this. I'm going to do that. For example, when I come by you, I know after work, you tend to de-stress by watching a movie or, you do something, maybe you'll cook, but you de-stress, right? From the day, you relax from the day. But if we say I came and I was like, well, we need to deal with this. We need to deal with this right now. This is what you could possibly say to me, okay, let's deal with it. But every single day I come, I'm doing that. No, you never expressed at any point that this is happening, these are the things that are happening, and I feel overwhelmed. So eventually you have an explosion. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about teaching men to emotionally regulate.
Yeah, right.
Or just communicate.
I get that as an older adult, as a grown man, I get that. But Clint, okay, me and you, we hanging out on the streets of Connecticut, right? All right, and it's me and you, right? And then James walks up, and he just starts. We like, yo, what's up, James? How's things going? Peace, God. You know what I mean? And then he's like, he just starts breaking out in tears, like, hey, I just don't know what I'm gonna do. She doesn't understand me and all this kind of stuff. What are we on the block, right? What we gonna tell James?
Get off the block. Get off the block with all the tears. One, you ain't got no business being out in the street crying like that. I get it. We have emotions. You in love with your girl, or whatever it is.
But he should be able to have a space
y'all hearing between men what happens. I'm just trying to.
I'm agreeing with you, but I don't even go outside. I'm a woman. I don't go outside and break down and cry.
But he's right. I've run into that. Right. And honestly, I've done it. Yeah. I've done it. I've gone out on the street and then get around my homeboy. Next, I'm in tears.
But I think that should be okay, because that shows that you're human. I'm going to tell you one thing. I will never date another man that tells me he can't cry. I need you to be able to feel your emotions. I need you to be able to be sad. I need you to be able to be upset. Now, there's a difference. Everything has a healthy measure of everything. I'm not talking about a person who cries over everything. Nobody wants that in a woman. But I want somebody, if your mother is ill and you're sad, I need you to be able to shed a tear. My most memorable moment of a man not being in touch with his emotions. And me and my dad just talked about this the other day. I said, you hurt me most when my brother died and you told me to stop crying. Mm-hmm. And you stood at the funeral hard-faced and did not shed a tear for your firstborn son. That fucked with my head for 25 years. My brother's been gone 30. Right. It still bothers me. That moment is it's imprinted in my head that my father didn't mourn his son. And that hardness, I sought out in other men, which is why I've never experienced kindness from a man. It's more, if we don't get in touch with our emotions as men, as women, we are never going to restore our families. And if restoring the family is important, men have to learn the art of being kind. And it's our fault, it's society's fault, that taught men that being kind wasn't a superpower. It's a superpower to be kind, not a pushover, but being kind.
That's what I wanted.
No, I agree. You definitely got to have some kindness in there, but you got to have some toughness, because this world is tough. You can't.
You can be tough in therapy. I'm gonna tell you,
you can be tough in therapy, without a doubt. But when you're at home, you gotta, there has to be that balance.
But that's everybody.
That balance.
But that's everybody, and most men won't even most black men won't even go to therapy.
Right, that's true.
I'm not saying that a man should be able to just be sensitive. No,
it's easy to say that, but when you think about the salary of the black man in general, to have the disposable income to just roll out the therapy, which isn't cheap.
If he is working a full-time job, he has health insurance.
Yeah, but what if he's not? What if he's working two part-time? He's got to work two part-time. He's got to work two part-times just to make a full-time.
But it's right, you know what? Y'all talking to the future doctor. There are sliding scale therapy. There are online therapy services.
But brothers don't know that.
But that's brothers don't know that message. I agree. They don't know that.
And they can't afford it. And they can't afford it. All I'm saying
that's all that's in a brother's mind. I can't afford it.
You coming off real privilege. You coming off real privilege right now. I'm saying.
No, I'm not. I'm coming off educated, and I'm coming off knowledgeable. You can't tell me about this.
But there are people out here who are never going to get that knowledge because they're too scared.
That's where our responsibility comes in. Instead of saying it's not affordable on this show, we should be telling people it's affordable. It is affordable. That's a lie.
But there are so many free services out here.
There are so many.
How is it affordable?
Because it's I'm getting a whole doctorate in this, y'all. This is not.
She's saying there's a sliding. So there's free therapy as well, and there is
free
online.
therapy out here. There are free resource centers. There are free meditation centers. There
So-
is affordable therapy out here.
So
I'm admitted people don't know about it.
right, but
I'm passionate.
And that's
But,
what I'm saying.
but here's
and that's what
here's
I'm
the
saying.
thing for a brother that's down in the projects or close to the projects or whatever. They know about free. Free don't come free. Free come with something. Is my free gonna be like that public defender in the courthouse who's just trying to make a name for himself? So is this doctor just trying to make a name for himself, or are you really gonna help?
And I still don't know that health insurance is going to cover something like that, because it's like
Health
even if you go to
it does cover it.
It will cover it
for $20 a session.
It will cover it, but you got to know about.
I need to look.
We've talked about my salary before.
I need to look into that. I need to look at.
We've talked about my salary before. My therapy is $22 per session. There's EAP, and most full-time jobs, they have to give it. It's the law. So EAP covers 8 free sessions to assess you. If you are deemed any type of medically severe, like bipolar, severe depression, if you just say
so that's the catch. So you
No,
got
but you still get.
You still get therapy, but it's free. So if you go in and say, I'm thinking of committing suicide, they'll get you in right away. If you find they found out you need to be medically medicated to be balanced, there are services for that. Medicaid covers that if you have no money. If you have any type of health insurance, now don't get me wrong, there is a mental wellness issue in America where we do need to make it more accessible and knowledgeable for Black communities. But when we perpetuate the ideal that it's not affordable, and I'm sorry to kind of overtake this conversation, it's dangerous. And we are watching men kill women because they are not managing their mental health. And it's dangerous to spread that message that it's not affordable. Then make it affordable. We make everything else in our lives affordable. We do all of the things that we need to do to live the lives we want to be. Our mental wellness has to be a priority in our lives. Whether we are a man or a woman, it has to be a priority. And if it is not a priority, your family suffers.
So what I'm gonna promise to do is get this information that you're talking about, plus whatever information that I could find on my own, and I'll give it to the people.
Yes,
I'll give it to the people, and I'll put it somewhere, and I'll keep it to where at a future date, when we become what I anticipate to be much larger than we currently are, I'll keep that, and I'll bring it back out, and I'll make sure that it's known to a larger audience. Because I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know anything about it, and I don't know enough about it. I mean, I'm not the most educated person in the world, but I mean, I ain't dumb, and I just don't see. There's no information out there.
There's not.
Accessible.
They don't want you to know about it.
They don't want us to have that information.
They don't want us to have that.
Community to be unstable. If we're unstable, we cannot gather together. I believe in my mind that they do not want the Black family structure to come back together. I believe that with my whole heart. Did you just see in the news that Florida just passed a law to put in the schools lessons that slavery actually benefited Black people?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So they don't want, I'm not getting defensive with y'all, but I'm passionate. I've dedicated 4 years to education and psychology. I chose them both with strategy because I want to educate people that they want us not to tend to our mental health. Because if we don't tend to our mental health, the structure of our homes is broken. The people going to keep getting divorced because they can't stay together because everybody's mental wellness is messed up. We can't educate our children. So our children are not placed in equitable abilities to measure up against these other races when it comes to negotiating with jobs. Do you know, I had a student have a whole breakdown because they got a D on a paper I was going to let them rewrite. That is because they were told that if they did bad, that was it. They don't want us to win. So of course they're not going to make that information accessible. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate and why I'm getting my doctorate is not because I care about being Dr. Lynn. That's a small scale. But because when my brother passed away from suicide, I knew that it was because he didn't feel that he could go to nobody and say he needed help. And I can't save his life, but I can save every other life I can. I'm committed to the mental health conversation. I will research and find resources for people. If they say, I'm looking for a resource, I will find resources. And actually, one of the big things I'm going to do outside of my PhD is build a mental wellness center here in Atlanta. That's my goal, that provides free services as a nonprofit to anybody who needs them, regardless of income. Meaning they can come in and get quality health care, quality mental health help, meditation, yoga, Reiki, whatever it is their faith system will allow them to receive so that they can manage their well-being. And I'm gonna have that for individuals and leaders. That is my goal as Dr. Lynn, is to have a whole center where people can come be well and healed. And that's what Joy Journey is about. That's what my TikTok is about, finding that mental wellness, because it's out here. And it's a lot of us in the Black community who want to make sure we know that the United States do not want Black people being mentally well. Do you know how powerful we would be if we were like emotionally regulated and a team, and Black fathers were able to lead their families in a way to the success you talk about, where they're resilient, they know how to work, they know how to negotiate larger salaries so they're not getting paid less, they know how to say fuck the bullshit when they're being marginalized. Like, that's what I want to teach people, and that's what I try to teach my classrooms. One of the biggest things I get on my annual reviews, well, semester reviews, when students submit their evaluations of their professor, is I feel safe in Professor Lynn's class.
Right.
Because I create safe environments for the men too. And I've had those men call me, like you said, and cry and be like, I can't write this paper because my job is stressing me out and I can't tell my wife I'm about to get fired.
Right.
And I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, if you don't have no other safe space, you safe with me. So I tell people, if you don't have no other safe space, whoever on this platform, you safe with me. I am so passionate about Black men getting the mental health help they need, because our Black men are so amazing. I want us to know that. Like, y'all are so amazing and brave and strong and resilient since they brought us over here and made us do their work. And just imagine how more powerful we could be if you could just be like, hey, baby, I'm having a bad day. And restore marriages and relationships where the woman feels safe and not uncertain of what's going on with her man. And then he has to go out and get comfort from somewhere else because he feel like he can't talk to his wife, or vice versa. So I want to restore families. That's my goal. And I know that there's mental health help out there, but I know there's not enough. So I'm even working on that too. Like, what could I build here in Georgia that anybody can come to? Because just because you make $100,000, you're right, I might not have $150 a session to spend. So where can you go for free? That's quality healthcare, where I build a big enough nonprofit where I can pay my therapist enough money where they're not getting that public defender type of care. I'm telling y'all, it's coming.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need that, without a doubt.
I want to say to those people out there watching that we prefer to talk to you. Email us, whatever you got to do. Send us a message. We prefer to talk to you than to have to, see people 6 men carrying your coffin, because that's what it comes down to for males, where more males commit suicide because of mental health, right? They feel like they have nobody to talk to, nobody to turn to, nobody to show their emotions to, because they are grown up in a man up society. Man up, right? Now, nobody's saying you need to walk around crying and everything that happens, you fall apart and you're like, oh, I can't go to work today, right? So we're not saying that you're having...
me on a normal day.
We're not saying that you're having hormonal issues, as you guys like to blame women, but we're saying...
I have them.
Right.
But that's the thing,
And I put a couple links in here too, because Fulton County has a behavioral center with free mental health help.
Okay, please give it to us, because we want to. It's very important that we talk to each other. I think when it comes to Black men, they have a lot going on. For example, their peers, which is whites or Asians, they don't necessarily have equal
the truth of the matter is a lot of people can't even go out and vote just because you're so caught up in the rat trap.
Right.
And that's what I was just trying to say about the macroeconomics behind all of this stuff. None of this stuff the information isn't out there. Then when you get the information, you don't have the time to go. I mean, and then even if you do have the time to go, you got to find transportation to get there. You know, hopefully you don't have problems with your license, or you got a driver's license, or you got insurance, or you got a job to pay for the insurance.
So,
I mean, it's just, I mean,
Well,
all I'm saying is,
if you have a phone, if you have a cell phone, you can do therapy because there's a lot of virtual therapy happening, which is easier for
that's a good one. Now that's a good one.
Right,
That's
it's
a good
easier
one.
for the counselor.
And it's more common now than it was ever before.
Yeah,
Right.
I do my therapy virtually. I never leave my
Me
home.
too.
Nobody. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm not gonna say nobody, but a lot of people don't know what you just.
Oh my
said.
God.
Yeah, I go to therapy.
Since COVID.
That's nice.
Since COVID, most of us doing it virtually. I do therapy. Well, I don't do it no more because I'm a little bit better now. But I was doing therapy twice a week. I'm down to once a week. I'm proud of that. I was dealing with a lot back in January, and I could not function. And I was to a point where I was like, I need some help. I need. All my therapy is virtual, and it's on Zoom, so we get to talk to each other. And she ain't even in Atlanta, so
there you go.
You can. It's virtual BetterHelp. They have these tech services now. I think it's BetterHelp and a couple of other ones out here. Where for like $35, you can text. They're willing to do it however you need. They got it where you can text your therapist and do a session. You can chat with your therapist, live chat, or you can do a virtual Zoom session. So there are methods popping up that allow people virtual help opportunities. So that if they don't want to leave their house, but I'm not going to negate, I'm not going to paint a picture that we've got this solved. Beatbox is right. There is a gap, and allowing us to know these resources are available and making them accessible to BIPOC communities. So these minority communities are not being given the information. And even when they're given the information, it's so difficult to access the resources they give up because they're already depressed. So they're like, this is going to add more stress to my life. Just forget it. I'll figure it out. So you are 100% right that it's a problem.
Yeah, but I don't see this any different than when, gay people were killing themselves because they couldn't deal with it. And now look how far we've gone from the 80s to where it was like, shunned upon, to now we got, literally people creating, transgender, bathrooms. Like everywhere you go right now, I mean, it's almost kind of like you talk about gay folks. And I'm like, I ain't gonna call things out. I don't want to get banned here, but there's a certain group of people you call out, like things just start happening bad for you. It's almost kind of like the same thing I get with, you try to talk about gay folks. It's like, they're gonna come after you. You're gonna get.
Listen, you make one mistake. That's why, real talk. That's the problem I had in my job now. I said one thing that was misunderstood, and instead of them asking and just trying to get some clarity, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't mean it that way. These people went out on an all-out kill campaign. I'm gonna win in the end, though. The point of the story is, you're right.
Yeah, but the thing is that they changed that whole narrative to where now it's kind of like people can feel comfortable about, their sexuality. You know what I mean? And now we got the the cis, what is it, the cis sister versus
cisgender and transgender.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you are a cisgender man.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are a cisgender.
Whatever you are, just do your thing. Don't worry about nobody else. Do your thing, because it don't affect me.
In the 80s, though, you wouldn't talk like that, right?
But in the 80s, you know where you stood. But if you was closet people, then you was closet people, and you had to be careful of what you say or what you did.
But that's the same thing we're talking about right now. There's a lot of people with these mental or these these mental health issues about masculinity, and they don't want to talk to someone and say, hey, I'm having challenges with being a man, or doing what society is expecting me to be as a man. And that's the reason why a lot of people are going and committing suicide, because they just can't deal with the pressure. There's no outlet for them. You know what I mean? So I think if there was more outlets or more awareness and a more of a media push to say, hey, it's all right, or the resources that you're telling me exist out there for, people to go talk to, especially easily accessible, like through your cell phone versus having to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think
it's more accessible now than it's ever been.
Yeah, so but if you don't know it,
private, privately, nobody knows
Nobody
except for you, God, in that doctor.
Right. The
That's
one
it.
one thing I'm glad is that more Black doctors are now being available, because one of the things I think that was a big deal was for a Black man to connect with a person of another race, because they don't necessarily know what you're going through. You see what I'm saying?
Nobody, right? You have to get somebody that's been on your side of the tracks at some
Right.
point.
Mm-hmm.
At some point,
Mm-hmm.
they have to experience life, because
Right.
life as a Black person versus a white person is night and day.
The lived experiences are different, and I think that's
Right.
one of the reasons why, like, I've been in nonprofit 20 years, which is going to help me as I build into this new career of mine. And people are like, why are you changing your career at 45? I said, because the Black community needs me. Representation matters. And I know that I have 20 years of nonprofit, like, leadership and knowledge. I teach a master's program in it, and I am going to be able to build one of the dopest, first fully accessible mental health centers that provide this quality care. And so, that's just that part of me doing this work on a small scale and doing stuff like this is I know we need more Black people to represent. And the more representation we have, the more comfortable. And you know what? I'm going to take it off the men for a minute. Can I take it off the men for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
I think women owe a responsibility to reassure our Black men it's okay.
Yeah.
Because we be trying to tell them to man up too, or they not thug enough, or they not this enough, and I need a real man, and I need
yes, I've heard that. I need a real.
So Lynnette, you know what? That's a good way to talk about a call, because I think what you're talking about is more like a call to action here, right?
I think
Build your man up.
That's what I'm saying. Let's get these women involved.
The men need momentum. We need momentum. We need that push.
And I'm challenging the women to, like, get out of your own ego for just a little bit of a minute and support your man when he needs you. If your man cry to you, take that as a compliment that he trusts you to such a high level that he feels safe enough to be vulnerable with you. And then find out what's going on. Don't just brush him off. Like,
so, I gotta jump in here now, Clint. As soon as she said that, what ran through your mind? Because I know what ran through my mind. When you talk about a Black man going to this woman saying, "Yeah, hey, everything she just now said," she gonna look at you like,
go look at.
You're saying that you never
you want some wine to go with that cheese.
But I'm just saying.
Some cheese to go with that wine. Isn't that how that goes?
We as men, we
right, because we
soldiers,
right?
Vent. We try to vent, but we don't want to get into that, like you said, wine and cheese thing, because I know some women that look at you after a while. You can vent, but if you're on a daily, every other day basis, you're whining now. Now you're not being.
There's a difference between being able to tell your partner what's wrong and making your partner your therapist. That's why we're saying we need to have
somebody
feeling comfortable to go to a therapist.
So break that difference down for the layman like me. Break that difference down.
So the difference is women need to give their man permission to say, "I'm having a bad day."
Right. Absolutely.
I'm having a bad day. Baby, I need you to let me watch my movie and just chill. You didn't do nothing, but I need you to give me my moment. And her say, "Okay, babe, let me know when you feel better, or let me know if you want to talk about it." We're not talking about the man that comes home every day with a problem. Nobody even wants that in a woman. Like, get the help you need. So it's a difference between saying, "Hey, I got into a really bad argument with my boss today, and I don't want to take that out on you, but I want to let you know what happened at work today. So you could just kind of let me go down to my man cave and she come down there with your favorite whiskey and whatever you need and be like, baby, let me know if you need something. Just text me." I just want women to give a space for their man to say, "Hey, it's not about you right now." And sometimes if our man is in a bad mood and they not catering to us or give us what we need, we get mad. And we're like, "Oh, so you had a bad day at work? That means we can't still go out to dinner?" No. What do you want to do when you have a bad day? You want a moment to yourself. So that's what I'm saying. It's our responsibility too to make y'all feel comfortable with saying, even, "Babe, I think I'm going to call somebody to talk to them because I've been feeling down lately. I don't want to put that on you, but I just can't shake this mood. I just want you to know what I'm doing, so you not thinking I'm with a woman every hour on Thursdays and we sneaking around." Because I've had that happen too, where this man was sneaking and seeing the therapist. The girl thought he was cheating. It was funny. She pulled up on him.
But what's wrong with talking to your woman though about what's going on in your life?
I don't think there's anything wrong.
But some brothers don't. Some brothers are just wired that way.
Yeah,
They're not going to talk to their spouses. They're going to talk to their homeboy. If they got a homegirl, they're going to talk to their homegirl. But, you know, putting it out to your spouse, a lot of times, a lot of brothers don't do that because it's a sign of weakness.
It's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, but so
No, brothers get insecure, and then they're like, okay, she sees me as weak. Now she's gonna try me.
Okay, so you think it's a sign of weakness to the person you're with. They might think you're weak because you're asking.
Exactly.
Yeah, but either they gotta try to bring you down.
What's wrong with being weak? What's wrong with
because we have a culture.
We have a culture
in the Black community that a real man is a N.
He's a warrior.
He's a warrior. He's a warrior.
He's standing strong all the time, every time.
So, but you know, and I don't want to talk anymore here, but the name of this show is Grown and Social, right? So I would think most of our audience are going to be like, we passed, you know, high school in our 20s, right? We talking about people that are full-fledged adults, okay? And, you know, at this point in your life, you should be in a position to say, hey, I've done this, tried that, it's not working. And, you know, I got a problem with people telling me right now that, you know, telling their spouse or significant other what's going on with them is a sign of weakness. And like, why do we need to be a soldier at 40, 50 years old? Like, who are we fighting against? Who's the opposition? You know what?
It's your social status, especially in the Black community.
What social status though are we talking about? At this point in our lives, what social status are we talking about that's preventing us from helping ourselves?
People function on automatic. Like they function automatically. They think a certain way, and it's hard to get out of that thinking. No, as you said to Lynnette, it's privilege. We might be privileged enough to start.
Y'all privileged. Y'all might be bougie.
Entitled.
Right. To start like leaving our lower self.
Hold on. Did you see Lynnette? She did the hair thing. Like,
I was checking.
Right. So
I call that the Becky move.
Right. So you're surviving. You're surviving, and you have learned to survive. And the way you survive is you keep your guard up at all times. Because if you let your guard down, somebody's gonna test you. Right?
Yeah,
whether she tells her brother, she tells her cousin, and all of a sudden he's calling you names that she says you've been crying on him.
People use your vulnerability against you too.
Right.
Yes,
People will wait.
People will do that.
You always crying. That's why I'm saying it's not just a man's problem. It's women. We got to change the narrative too. Like, look, if your man vulnerable with you, don't bring that back up later. Or a man too, don't bring that back up later. And if you need therapy, go get it. It is okay. I'm gonna be honest. I make good money now, but when I started getting therapy, I wasn't making any money, and I was homeless. And I was on a sliding scale. I was paying $10. So I've had a lot of money. I've had no money.
Brothers, get you some therapy. I'm doing it. I'm in it.
I'm in my therapist every Friday. I'm there.
So the call to action, though, Lynnette, just to bring you back to where you're at, is support. You were saying first, because you started off beautiful at first. You were like, support your man, but then you started saying, we're not really your therapist, so make sure you contact somebody too.
No, this is what I mean. Let me clarify. Right. Nobody is anybody's therapist. Nobody can manage that. That is too much. That's why there are professionals for that. Nobody can manage every single emotion another human being has. That's unfair, whether you are a man or a woman. This is gender neutral. Your man is not your therapist. This is why relationships have problems. Your woman she's not nobody. So this is not specific to men. But I'm saying you should be able to talk to each other. But if you find that every day is a bad day, if you find yourself having a hard time getting through work and functioning, if you find yourself up and restless at night and can't sleep, if you find yourself thinking suicidal thoughts or even ideations of it'd be better if I'm not here, don't dump that on your mate, because they might not even be professionally equipped to help you.
Gotcha.
Ask them for hey babe, I want to go talk to somebody. Would you support me? Would you come with me? Like, whatever those cases may be. But if somebody's suicidal, a person might not even be equipped to deal with that. Like I was 16 when my brother died. If he had told me he wanted to die, I wouldn't have known what to say at 16. But a therapist might have. So I'm saying, like, we don't want to put people in a role to be a therapist because that might fail just from lack of know-how. But if you're just having a bad day or a bad month, or you got a job you hate, you should be able to come talk to your partner. Or if your boy pissed you off, you know, I know somebody right now, I'm not going to say their name, but they're very close to me. They're going through something real tough right now. And I talked to their best friend, and I was like, did he tell you that was going on? And the friend is going through something real tough, like life-threatening, and neither one of them have told each other. That's crazy. They're best friends, and they're men. And both of these things are like life or death situations. They're telling me, but they're not telling each other. And they should be able to talk to each other. They're best friends. They've been best friends since they were like 11.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not allowed.
But it's not allowed.
Yeah,
so these 40-year-old men that are best friends, and one could potentially not be here anymore. Not telling his friend that. That
sometimes it's about being a burden. You know, you have these things going on, and you don't want to tell your homeboy because you know your homeboy gonna be right there because that's why he your homeboy. That's why he like your brother. Because you already know if you put this news on him, the first thing gonna say is, what can I do? How, you know, what we gonna do? We gonna fix this? How we gonna fix it? And you know, that's why sometimes men don't talk to each other because you already know this dude gonna go all out just like I would if he, you know, if the shoe was on the other foot. Not knowing that you are wearing the shoe just like he wearing the shoe.
Right.
The one of y'all you're wearing the same shoe.
So I'm saying to you that I want to put this out there that Section 8 housing, low income housing, mold toxicity is a big deal. There is a documentary on it. If you guys look up mold toxicity, you will realize mold toxicity causes mental health issues. So if you have ever been in a low income housing, or you have been in some kind of apartment setting where it was paid for by the government, most likely you've been exposed to mold. Okay? Yeah. If you've been exposed to mold, you might...
in institutions as well.
Right. You might not be as centered, and for a reason, and you don't know why. So that's why you want to explore your mental health. Nobody's saying you're crazy. We're just saying that there are things that might be happening biologically that is creating those emotions in you, right? And we want to make sure that you're going to be here. You know, life is it's a gift to grow old. It's a gift.
That's true. I was waiting for this, America. I love this.
I like it.
I love this. I love this. I'm waiting for it all to get like that. It's coming. It's coming. But I love this, America.
And see, it's not just about relationships either. I don't want my black men killing each other in the club, on the street.
Right.
We ain't learned how to regulate our emotions. It's just so much going on with young people who haven't learned how to have a conversation and manage their emotions. In Detroit right now, I think in the past 6 months, 3 men have killed our black women because they broke up with them.
Yeah.
And I want us to get the help we need so that when life throws us those curveballs you talk about, B-Box, that they are resilient enough to handle being knocked down without harming themselves or someone else.
Right.
Because if you can't let somebody break up with you, that is a mental illness, and you need to be getting some help. So if you feel like you got to kill somebody because they don't want to be with you anymore, there's something not right there. And maybe if we start that younger, they'll have the tools they need. I know it's not an overnight solution. I'm not going to make this paint like it is, but we got to start with our children of letting them know it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to lose. It's okay to not get what you want. And it's okay to start over. And it's okay to not know. And if you don't get what you want, you can't forcibly do it because you're a man. Because that story about that nurse in Detroit, like her son, he didn't kill her. He sexually assaulted her because she didn't want to be with him. then took her 3-year-old daughter and brutally murdered her and left her in an alley.
Mm.
We gotta fix this problem. Our families, our kids, our women depend on it. And he just in jail, just not even caring that this little baby, she'll never get to see life because this man couldn't regulate his emotions. That's something going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the third time that happened this year.
Right. And that's what
Wow.
I'm saying, that we are exposed to a lot of toxins. We're exposed to water that's not necessarily the best. We're exposed to housing that's not necessarily the best. And then we are exposed to trauma based on our living conditions. So we definitely need to always be talking to somebody. Always be talking to somebody, because we carry a lot of burdens that are not visible to others.
My
Yeah, and
therapist said
that's
to me,
that's as real as it gets. I mean, and that's with overtime here, but
I think this was an
back in the
important conversation, though.
it's a very
Yeah.
important conversation. That's why we went over, right? Because back in the day, my boys were my counselors and my
Yeah.
therapists, and then it became I ain't trying to knock anybody here, but currently it's somebody, it's the significant other in my life. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I talk about.
And that's how it should be.
That's how it
Yeah, I
should
mean,
be.
Right.
That's my go-to. And luckily,
Yes.
I don't have them saying, looking at me sideways, like, why, like, why you? I mean, now I don't. Now, granted, I'm limited in, how much I share and when I do it, but
Right.
when I do it, I expect the compassion and, just, the ear to listen to kind of like what I'm going through, and luckily, I'm able to get that. So that's the reason why I was saying, at this age, especially for the grown and social audience here, and on our ages, you know what I mean? Like, we need to stop thinking like adolescence and, how we used to think in our 20s. We got to start thinking about what we actually can do to, be healthy mentally and physically. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And, you got to start, there's growth, I think, that needs to occur. And you need to be truthful with yourself and just, are you locking up and holding in and, keeping emotions inside because that's just all you know? Have you tried to do something different? Like, has anyone actually proven to you that you can't do it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would say, if it hasn't been proven to you that you can't talk to someone that's special in your life, give it a shot and see how that goes. And if it doesn't go the right way, then we're gonna put some information out there that we think can help everyone out. Because I didn't know about it until today. So
Well,
if there's mobile help out there,
This,
we'll share it.
this my life fight. Like, I'm dedicating the rest of my time on this earth to saving the lives of Black folk and making them feel comfortable with getting the help that they need. And I will admit, there were times where I needed some medical, pharmaceutical help
Mm-hmm.
to get through a rough time. And now I don't need that. And I have other tools that I use to ground myself, but I want the world to know that both are okay. So sometimes talking to your partner is great because you are very emotionally intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
Bebop. So you can have a conversation, and even here we be getting in debates sometimes. We
Right.
all
Mm-hmm.
healthy debates because we understand that we want the best for the public, right? We all know
Right.
Well,
that for each
but
other.
then, as a Black community, that's another thing too. There's gotta be a mutual respect. I mean, but like even like, and everybody hasn't gone to college, but that's why I advocate that you do go to college, because when you go to college, you'll see some like really juicy arguments, but it's not like anyone wanting to get up like they're on the frontier plane and start, clubbing people upside the head. It's just kind
Right.
of like intellectually, how can I get my point across without forcefully having to put hands on somebody? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So
Exactly.
when you start becoming, smarter, you start learning how to spar with people intellectually. And even though you disagree in what may seem like an argument, all it is just two different points of view.
It's just
I
two
don't
different points.
necessarily, like I said, I'm one of Lynnette's biggest fans, so I'm definitely trying.
I'm one of your biggest fans, and I love the fact that I can disagree with people I respect.
And I'm Jenny J's biggest. Jenny J is actually, she's like number one. She's my.
Oh boy.
I gotta throw that in there because I don't want to hear about anything later. It's like
That was a late cleanup. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That was a late cleanup. That was a late cleanup.
it don't matter, but I did it.
There's
all right?
there's
I did
bashing
it.
later.
I can help you. No, Jenny, know I always got her back.
Yes.
No, she got I always got her back. But no, I get it. I think it's important to be able to disagree and be passionate respectfully,
Right.
You know, and be like, no, I know this. I be telling people, I'm like, no, I know this. I don't know nothing else in life. I know this. And I'm still learning. You know what I'm saying? I'm still learning. And so it's not that I know it all. I have my mentors too that I'm learning from. But the biggest thing is I love that I can respect people who don't know or just think differently, that do know and say, I just don't agree. And but guess what? That's because we are a group of highly emotionally intelligent people, and we take for granted the gift of emotional intelligence. And so everybody doesn't have that. But I promise, like I said, that's what my dissertation about. My dissertation is about that relationship maintenance and how do we manage. And my goal is building theories and books and all that that teach people how to be emotionally healthy people. It's a whole whiteboard right behind me on this wall with emotionally intelligent terms that I'm building to help build this theory on how people can communicate with each other in a healthy way. So I'm really committed to it. I don't say that to brag because I get people like, oh, all you talk about is your school. Well, what else I'm gonna talk about? That's all I do in this podcast. But you know, I'm committed to figuring out what formula I can create that will assist in the other formulas created between love languages and emotional attachments and relational intelligence and emotional intelligence. What can I help add to that body of knowledge that will people can say Lynn Marie's theory of interpersonal communication helped me save my marriage or helped me keep my job or helped me learn how to communicate better with my male friends. If I can do that specifically for Black folks, I'm winning. So you know, we over. I'm gonna always. I'm gonna keep saying that every time with mental health that I am in it to win it, and it's a lot of sacrifices I'm putting into it to make sure that I can at least tell people the resources they need. If they say there are no resources, I can be like, hold on, let me go get a book for you. Here are all the resources. It's available. Let me know if none of them work. I'll go find some more. So I will say this to the world: if we look for resources and for some reason they don't work, I'll make a personal commitment to find a resource for you that does work. I don't want anybody out here not getting help they want because they can't find it.
And yeah, I just want to say, so we got 267 people in the building. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button,
what's up.
And this is Grown and Social. We are here every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time, wherever you're at in the world. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to, you can click on the notification bell so you know whenever we go live. Tonight's show, I think we had a large discussion. We went over, but it was very important information. I think everyone's got some final words. So, until we can talk to the people next week, I just want to say we are gonna be out of here.
Bye, America.
Bye.
Later. Be safe.
Later.